Looks like the Wi-Fi is good here. I'm at this library over there. That library is what's providing me with the Wi-Fi right now, and it's pretty good as I sit in my car. There are people who come and go through here, and I'm cautious about that. So I'm doing this in the car because of the people. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do this in the car or just kind of sitting closer to the library. But in the car, it's got good reception, so I'm going to do that. Alright, I didn't put a title on this, but I intend to later and then run it through ChatGPT to make an update or to do a summary for the description. But I just want to say that I found out that my grandma died about a week ago. She died about 2 weeks ago. Hey Zap, when did your grandma die? Actually, you have two grandmas, I'm sure, so um, you don't need to tell me. My first grandma died back in 2014 at age 88, and that was sad to me to actually like participate at the wake. She was cremated. Then we all go to her house afterward, and I mean, we just start arranging things in the house and taking things and all that, and that was weird. I've never taken things out of my grandma's house before, but that was the grandma on my mom's side, Grandma Phyllis Shipman, and that was a tragedy. My grandma Eleanor Hines, my other grandma on my dad's side, actually attended my grandma Phyllis Shipman's funeral, and I don't know if they really ever spoke, but she was just doing that out of respect. And let's say my Grandma Hines, let's see now, she just died a couple of weeks ago now, at 94, and so I don't know. She was like maybe 84 or so. There's some shipments in Texas, Paris, Texas. Yeah, Paris. I believe I visited Paris, Texas, and saw that it's they're trying to treat it as a tourist town, but it's not getting quite so many tourists. They have bicycles for rent, and they got like the actual Eiffel Tower on display that's lighted up at night in a little park that next to the Veterans Park. But I mean, when I visited the Eiffel Tower in Paris, Texas, it was pretty quiet. There, I was the only one there at night, seeing that light show. Your mother's, your father's, before you didn't even meet your grandparents. Okay, yeah, I can say that I met both my grandpas and my grandmas, both of them, while I was alive. So, the last of my grandparents has died now. So all four of them are dead. So that's just life moving forward. So there's closure to that. But it was just kind of weird that how I found out that my grandma Hines died, and that was through my aunt Julie on my mom's side. So my grandma Hines is on my dad's side, and Aunt Julie, I guess Aunt Julie is the only one who's talking to me. Nobody else is talking to me. I gotta admit, I'm too scared to talk to them anyway. Talk to any of them. I mean, my sisters have told me off, uh, and I've gotten evil eyes from my uncles before. They like hatred. I could see it in their eyes. My my uncle John in particular. I see that hatred. So I just don't deal with these guys. Like when I went through the Rice Lake. So I kind of was like, I was assuming my grandma Hines was already dead when I was going through Rice Lake and Hagen last year. I assumed that she was dead already, and I was like kind of looking for her grave when I was in Hagen, because I know that there's a grave site, a cemetery. I don't even know where Robert Hines is buried. He died in the 80s, in the 70s. But I tried to look for some Heinz plots, but I was unsuccessful. But I mean, I understand that there's supposed to be some Bohemian plots in Hagen, and I got some visitors here in the no camping area. I don't know. All right, we got a little party developing here, I guess. Um, Good Wi-Fi still though. They're giving me a little bit of distance. It's kind of a big parking lot, and they're meeting each other, I guess. All right. Yeah, it's family's kind of the family I came from. I mean, it was close up in my early years, but then I'm supposed to create my own family and break off from the family I created, or family that I came from. Um, but things don't always happen in a linear fashion. So I found out that my grandma Hines on my dad's side died, and I found out from my aunt Julie, and she's already been dead. The wake has already happened. She's already likely in the ground since it's been about 2 weeks ago now. She's already buried in the grounds. And I'm under the impression that all my uncles are still alive, my dad's still alive, but I mean I don't talk to those guys, so I don't know what exactly is going on. You're gonna run in some people's houses. Well, the yeah that this event is sad, uh, to think about my grandma Hines and the interactions that I had with her. Uh, we're up to about 2000, I don't know, 11 maybe, 2011, 2012, and I mean, we didn't have the best conversations. I always thought it was great that she was a good cook. She liked to cook. She always liked to provide food. But I mean, what bothered me about her great, amazing cooking ability, and that was mentioned in her obituary, because you can look that up, Eleanor Hines from Hagen. Um, she never bothered to teach anybody her methods. Okay, I mean, maybe she was teach. She had some females oversee what she was doing. I would have liked to have learned more of her techniques. As I didn't really know anybody else in the family I came from that was very good at cooking, and she was pretty good. She often made the Thanksgiving meals until I don't know until her mid to late 80s, and then she stopped. She just couldn't handle the workload that goes with preparing a Thanksgiving meal for I don't know 10 people, 15 people or so. But yeah, there's some things I learned from her life that I just find interesting. She told me once, and I never inquired further into it, but she said that um, she's glad she doesn't have my life. She's genealogy. They have many scattered relations. Well, it's not that scattered. I mean, there's nobody from Africa or Asia. It's not that scattered. There's people who can really have some scattered families. My family still stays within the European framework, so it's not that scattered. But it's you know documented in English. if it was part Chinese in some way, that might have been more difficult to trace. So there's the European history that goes far back for me, mostly European throughout Europe, Bohemia, and all around that area and into the U.S. So yeah, my grandma was never jealous of my life, and I didn't really question what she meant by that. It's like she was pretty much saying that her life was better than mine. I mean I wasn't going to question that. That's her opinion. That's what she wanted to say. I mean she didn't really go into it further. She wasn't a mean person. It's just there was something going on with my life that she felt was a little uh like disastrous, that she's glad it wasn't something that she had to deal with. And it sounds like she enjoyed quite a good life. I mean, as far as I understand, she was raised by the Wilgers, my great grandparents, whom I actually met too. I met both my great grandparents, grandpa, great grandma. Seen the last house that they lived in Rice Lake, and I mean they kept it very simple because they weren't out partying. They were just surviving. So they lived in one of the most simple, boring, pretty much boring houses to a kid you can imagine. So she apparently they it sounded like she was raised in a bar, so she was exposed to a lot of party scenarios, but small town celebrations. And these Wilgers, I mean, as far as I understand, they owned a bar. All right. I mean, with my experience with them as great grandparents, I would never have imagined them owning a bar and and you know getting events and parties going on and to sell their alcohol. I couldn't imagine them doing that. I mean, I don't know the history that well, but I mean, from my perspective as a kid, meeting them, a few times, they just seem to live boring lives. But I'm sure that their lives haven't always been boring. People going through their teens and 20s and 30s generally have more exciting lives going on. More's going on in their life compared to in their, I don't know what the hell. I think they live to their maybe 80s, early 80s or so. I forget how long they lived. But life tends to get more boring as you get older and slows down, and then they just, you get a different impression of them. So adulthood has different stages. It's not just child, you're a child till 17 and then you turn 18 and then you become an adult and you're just this in the same plane of as in the adult through the adulthood from your late teens to your 80s, 90s. It's adulthood goes through phases as well. You just you stop growing, but then there's different other types of changes that happen in your whole being. So yeah, she lived a long life, a lot longer than I expected her to. I thought she would have been dead before 94. And apparently there was a news article about 10 or 15 years ago that announced that her death, her passing, that was posted in the church that she went to in Hagen, and all she could do was laugh about it. So there's like whatever they call those, just something to announce that her death, um, about in her early 80s and her late 70s, that all she could do is just find humor in why that post came about. I don't know if it was really serious or a joke. It's hard to say, But she went on to live a much longer life. Uh, yeah, but I thought she was not looking great, in great shape. She was still able to walk. She was still on her feet last time I seen her, over 10 years ago. Um, moving around. I mean, very capable of taking care of herself. Not maybe not so much hosting Thanksgiving events and cooking for multiple people, but at least being able to cook for herself. And she was taking like I don't think she was taking any medications. I mean, it was up to her 80s at least. I don't believe so. She was just relying on her great cooking skills and maybe getting a bit of a variety in with their vitamins. But I remember she did mention something a long time ago about having taking a vitamin B12 injection to make herself feel better. Somebody suggested that she get that. I think that was in her early 80s, or she got some kind of vitamin B12 injection. So that's something to be concerned about when you get older. You don't process vitamin B12 as easily as well, and getting an injection can boost your vitality in some ways. I don't know if she did that on a regular basis, but it sounded like it was just like a one-time thing. But I mean, I didn't talk to her for her last over 10 years of life anyway, so I don't know. But you know, in her early 80s, she'd talk about um, drinking her cup of coffee every day and having half of an aspirin every day. And that's something that my a great grandma said that she was doing a half of an aspirin a day, and she lived till 88. Died in I don't know 19 um, maybe early 1990s, I think. My great grandma Mill Shipman, I think she lived to 88 and into the early 90s, and she would take aspirin. Okay, that was something to take down inflammation. But apparently, some people claim that the aspirin ate her stomach. So I don't know what to think of that. If she was aspirin's known to have some problems with the stomach, and she took it until it like ate her stomach. But I don't know, like, did she have an autopsy? It's hard to say. I mean, I wasn't told that she got an autopsy to determine that. I mean, if when you're old enough and you seem to die of natural causes, they might tend not to give you an autopsy. So people can speculate on this stomach eating aspirin issue, which I mean, what's very clear was that she fell. Grandma Mill fell down and broke her hip, and then she had infection problems at that point, and then died. But yeah, with my grandma Hines, it's all right. I got people checking me out, I guess. With my grandma Hines, uh, it's unclear to me what actually happened. I mean, she died at 94, so old age is just old age, just wear out. May not have been anything traumatic like a murder. I just look at old age as being old age. So I'm a little annoyed by the stairs. I'm getting stared at. Okay. There. Oh no. Okay. See, that's the thing. This is an affluent area. I get the stairs because I'm not affluent. So we got problems with that. fellow Europeans scrutinizing me for my appearance, how my car looks inside here. It says no camping. They leave their cars here. I get stared at. What they're doing is trying to decide if they think I'm going to steal out of their car when they walk away. And then they want to take in a big eyeful of everything so they can accurately describe me if they feel something is missing in their cars. And I'm hanging out in the library parking lot and trying to mind my own business, get through the day as best I can. This isn't the most ideal spot for me. I could find, well, I can't in this immediate area. I don't know of any better spots. So yeah, I'm not really feeling like I'm mourning over my grandma Hines so much. We never talked, for a over a decade. We haven't talked for over a decade, and that's fine. We could we parting ways. Just not talking. It's not important to keep in contact with your family members. Okay, that's what I can say. You don't have to be keeping in contact with them. That's just it's not a not mandatory. Uh, we all probably should have broken off earlier. I think it's to have talked with them as much as I did was just something that maybe I pushed up for a little too long. I should have been out traveling a lot sooner, getting out of Rice Lake, not putting up with that severe cold weather. They could handle it though. I don't think she's ever left Hagen, Wisconsin or Rice Lake and gone very far. Never left the state really. She stayed and stuck around through those long cold winters. 94 years, the hot summers, all in that general area in the little corner of northwestern Wisconsin without really traveling very far. Didn't go on trips to other countries or anything. Just lived a simple, humble life. So that was how she lived, just doing that. And I mean, I would ask her when the last time she went down to the river, and she says she's seen it enough, and that was over 10 years ago. She's seen the little creek behind the house, the behind the farm, that's like something like Brill Creek or something like that behind her farm in Hagen. Uh, I mean, I assume that she probably went down there to the creek in her younger years. I got the impression she's been living on that farm ever since she turned 18 or so. Her husband was 32 or something like that. There's a kind of a big 30, big age gap, and they had 5 kids together. But I think my grandma Hines met my grandpa Hines in the bar that her parents owned and operated in Hagen, and he came back from the Air Force. He was in the Air Force in World War II, and I he I don't think he was in combat. I think he was an mechanic for the Air Force. And if I have Wi-Fi connection, I could remember. Oh, there we go. Okay. Um, there was that. I might not even find it. There was that old air base in Illinois that I visited. That's a training base for mechanics that I visited. It's like something C. It starts out with something C. Let's see if I can find it. It's towards the, call it the east. Not Sham. It's pretty. It's not something that stands out. No, it shut down. Oh my God, I can't even remember when it shut down. No. Rantoul, it's in Rantoul. They're not going to say. It's shut down. That's okay. It's in Rantoul. And then there's the air base at Rantoul. No, Chanute. See, I think my grandpa, Grandpa Heinze, I think that he trained in Chanute Air Force Base during World War II, just in Illinois, because that's a training center for aircraft mechanics, and that's just straight south of Wisconsin. But yeah, he might have been drafted into the war, and then had enough mechanical knowledge, maybe from farming to train as a aircraft mechanic. But then he got done with with his tour in the Air Force, and then went back to Hagen, because I think his family is also, well, yeah, his family is from Hagen, because my grandma moved in with his parents. So whatever his parents did is a mystery to me. I know what her parents did because she grew up in a bar. But what his parents did were probably, well, they were farmers, because that was a farm that she moved on to, and they just continued dairy farming and plowing fields for whatever they got, raising chickens, kind of a almost like a hobby farm, owning a lot of property and being a bit self-sufficient, but also selling the milk that they produced until a barn fire in the mid 80s, and then they sold what wasn't burnt and gave up that life. My grandma then started working in a factory, and worked there like 15 years, like in her 50s, I think, or maybe even her 60s. Late in life, she just started working in a factory to make ends meet. And she would say that she preferred wrestling with a machine more than wrestling with an animal. So it was a relief to her to work at a factory as opposed to raising animals on the farm. So she needed that perspective. A lot of people go straight to the factory from living in the city life, and then just working at a factory. They may not appreciate the factory as much as somebody like my grandma, who was a farmer for a long time, and then, yeah, however that barn burnt, it sounded like it was an electrical issue, and yeah, some wires got crossed, possibly by accident, possibly a little intentional, being a little careless, especially when they have insurance, which may have covered the cost. I think my dad learned a little bit about the benefits of having insurance, because when I owned my house, he put insurance on it, and I didn't want insurance. I owned it free and clear. I didn't have to make any payments on the house. I bought it with my own money, and I had enough saved up to just buy it. And I didn't need insurance. If I had to make payments on it, then yeah, I would need insurance. So I'd have to, you don't just make payments on towards the interest rate. You also got to buy insurance while you own that house, because that's what the loan agent insists. It's just in case a disaster struck. But yeah, my dad learned about the benefits of insurance. I'm thinking, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but when the barn burnt, I'm sure they had insurance and benefited from that, and then also selling off everything to make a little bit of money. I was there on the day they had the auction. It was like a bit of a family event, watching the stuff all get auctioned off. And I was so young. I don't think my age was even in the double digits. So I was just kind of watching what was going on, and wondering why they're selling off so much stuff. What was the reason for this? I didn't even get a chance to play with half that stuff. I didn't even get a chance really to look at it. As I was getting older and continuing to visit that farm, I barely got to see any of that stuff that was sold off as a young person, and it would have been kind of neat to learn, because I mean my dad also developed a pretty good mechanical um, proficiency. Not great, I want to say, just not great, but good. Uh, and a lot of that was from his experience on the farm. So there's a benefit to have access to the proper resources to be able to work on your skills. And yeah, for that kind of stuff to get sold off, it was unfortunate, but I mean, whatever. Other families got the benefit from the deals that came out of that auction on that day. And I mean, it sounds like it was a great relief off of my grandma's shoulders as my grandpa was sinking further and further into dementia and then Alzheimer's, where he would just, towards the end of his life, he'd wander around not knowing where he was walking, and so we had to send out search parties to find him when he would wander off too far. So yeah, the life on the farm, I'm sure they got a lot of stories, especially a lot of stories of of redheaded people. A lot of these people are redheaded. My dad and a few uncles, grandma's the redhead. So there's a lot of fiery entertainment going on. Redheaded people tend to prioritize fun over a lot of other things. Even though my grandma became a good cook, she was a redhead who was a good cook, and I'm sure she wanted to cook fun things. She wanted to do things that were fun to her. That was a priority, just to keep them in good spirits. And yeah, I mean, redheads tend to do better in the winter cold than other types of people, built for that extreme cold. Look forward to the colds, because that's more of a relief. I find it more of a relief, at least, to deal with the cold more than the heat. So yeah, she lived a full life in a small area, a long life, and yeah, that's it. She took a lot of pictures. She has trunks full of pictures of just from various different cameras. It would have been interesting to learn of the first camera she used to use, and what she stopped, what she kind of stopped you, or the last camera she used. I know she was using those really old cameras and just taking a bunch of pictures of everybody and everything. And I looked at quite a few of them 20, 30 years ago. These are some old pictures. Not really pictures all kept in an album either. It's like just stacks and stacks of pictures she would take. So that was something that she enjoyed, taking those pictures. I think she focused mostly on people. She seemed to enjoy getting pictures of people and groups and just together, and host those events. She would cook and host those events to attract people and then get people's pictures. For a while, I saw a picture of myself on a table when I was in the military. There's a picture of me. I was stationed in the desert, holding up the M16 and just posing for a military photographer, who then sent that picture to to my grandma. It was like that was a part of a public affairs program where they just go out and take pictures of you while you're on duty, and then mail those pictures. And it was like an 8 by 10. It was a pretty good sized picture. I have to admit though, looking at that picture, I wish I had taken my glasses off. I kept my glasses on, and I wish I had been able to see my eyes. But I was just like, I get so like when it comes to harsh conditions, I just it's hard for me um, to open up during harsh conditions. It was just the light was so bright. It was painful to my eyes in the desert. I couldn't handle the brightness. So I was like, I didn't even want to take the glasses off because it was so bright outside. Um, and hot, sweating. I think you could see the drips of sweat coming down, and then I kept my eyes covered. Had the hats, the full brim hats, to just try to protect my skin. Working during the daytime, and like it was over 100-degree weather, 120 or so. But yeah, that picture is sent to my grandma, and she put it on the little table for a display. But I don't know what happened to that picture. It'd be kind of neat to get a copy of that picture. But I don't talk to these guys anymore. I don't need to see all that old stuff. Those are pictures now that she took, and now that she's dead, she no longer owns. Somebody else does now. Who's taking those pictures? Who's taking the responsibility of curating those pictures, those old pictures of people that nobody knows about so much. There's a lot of people that still may remember who's in the pictures and who and whatnot, but it's becoming fewer and fewer now. The grandma who actually took those pictures knew them best, and yeah now the stories behind those pictures are fading. So yeah, it's a sad time, but she wasn't I wasn't very close to her. Just like with my great grandpa on my mom's side, he died in about 95, 96, and I don't know, maybe one of my family members alerted the sergeants, and he told me when I was in Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, I was told that my great grandpa died, and I was asked if I want to go attend the funeral, and I didn't give it a second thought. I was like, no, I don't need to attend his funeral. I think he was I think he was getting buried in Wyoming, somewhere in Wyoming. I think I might have called my mom to get details, but I mean, it was not something I wanted to do. I was a bit stressed out at the military base with the demands they placed on me, and I didn't really want to get out of routine of work and make mistakes. I felt like if I got out of the routine of the daily grinds on the military base, leaving for a week or two and coming back, I don't know. I might have made more I don't know. It's just something I didn't really. I wasn't that close to my great grandpa anyway. It's not like my dad died or even my grandpa. My grandpa died in the 80s anyway. My grandpa died before my great grandpa. So on my mom's side, my great grandpa watched my grandpa die. His son. He watched his son die, and that was due to a brain tumor. And from what I understand, my great grandpa, he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, something like that. It was maybe a suicide. And this was when he was at age 90. He just decided to just try to end it abruptly at that point. And within a year after my great grandma died, after her hip fracture, there was a lot of depression on his part, and so he couldn't handle that. that loneliness, the extra loneliness. Living with my grandma Phyllis wasn't filling the void. It sounded like maybe they weren't getting along that great. But they were living with each other just out of convenience. So that was, that's older. When you get older, you try to do things to make life more convenient in your older years, because the same challenges you take on in your 20s are a lot more challenging in your 70s, your 80s. So whatever they did to get by in their later years, they did. And I have no idea if my grandma Hines was still on that farm or if she moved into a nursing home. I mean, it sounded like my Uncle John was taking care of her until the end. So my Uncle John was there for her, and he was her caretaker, taking care of the farm, mowing the grass, cutting the wood so that they could fuel the furnace through the winter times, just taking care of all the business that a post-farm life brings. He worked at a factory himself. I'm sure he's retired by now. He's probably, yeah, he's in his 60s, maybe late 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe 70s, most likely 70s actually. Having taken care of grandma until the end, taking care of the farm. So whatever happens to the farm is going to be a mystery for me. All I know is last time I checked on the there's well, whatever, I checked on that special map that shows you who owns what property. It said it's under Eugene Hines, and it's like when he dies, then the bank gets it type of thing. So that's it. They got he's got the ownership. I don't even know who would have owned it before him or how long he's owned it for. He's just kind of owned let's see, race. He owned the south part of Hagen, a lot of that, but not too much, just a little bit. And he's got Alzheimer's himself, I believe. So I don't know how competent he is of his ownership. If you asked him today what he owns, what can he say? How can he answer that? So I don't know the level of his decline with this not let's see, Alzheimer's, with the Alzheimer's, with the brain, the degradation of the brain, which runs in the family from my grandpa to my dad. So there's something going on with the breakdown of the proteins in the brain that gets passed on. It's an older age thing, assuming you live long enough to reach that point of degradation of the brain. But my grandma Hines, I don't believe she suffered from it. It's hard to say, but I mean, last time I talked to her, over 10 years ago, she seemed very alert. Even though physically she wasn't, didn't appear that strong, she mentally still had a fire in her. She could still work herself up into a frenzy with an argument or something that might bother her, and get red in the face as she talks. She had good blood circulation, a strong heart. She drew from her heart a lot, and that's what redheads tend to do. They draw from their heart a lot. But yeah, just that was a long time ago. It's hard to say what happened. I mean, I wasn't alerted about her decline. I was only alerted a week after her death, and that was my Aunt Julie finding out about it. Um, Probably in the obituaries, and that's exactly what I did. As soon as I was told, I got an email from my aunt. I went to the obituaries, typed in Eleanor Hines, and there she was, an old picture of her, maybe in her early 20s. I didn't realize she had wide cheekbones in comparison to her chin and her forehead, wide cheekbones. And that's like, if you look at Chinese face reading, that's a sign that they have they can manipulate people a little bit. They have a tendency to manipulate people, possibly. I mean, I didn't get the impression of her being like that, so I don't know what to think of it. Maybe I need to restudy the Chinese face reading. It's been a while, but her face don't you wouldn't notice the cheekbones as much as a prominent feature of her in her 20s. You know, in her 80s, everything starts to sag down, and that becomes less just visible. So and she just got really obese in her later years. She looked very slender through her young years, and then became obese through her late half of her life at least. I remember hearing stories about how my Grandpa Robert Hines, when he was alive in the 80s, he would put her on a scale and weigh her and show her that she's putting on weight, and she would just laugh it off. In fact, when I mentioned that, I don't think people should be so obese, and I wasn't talking about her. I was just like, there's people that that I like who are obese, and it's sad for me to see that people being going through the obesity, and she was just like, just don't look at them. You know, if you don't like looking at obese people, just don't look. And I'm like, I kind of practice that. I make sure I'm looking away if I see somebody who's morbidly obese. I just look the other way. That's it. I don't even bother giving. You don't stare at them. They've made their choice. They tend to seem to have problems, not with Alzheimer's, but with kind of they got problems with energy levels and stuff. You know, you don't want to stress them out. Their livers are clogged. But she started out slender, and they got obese as she got older. Unlike kids today who start out obese and then struggle to try to maintain a good weight later in their life, I think it's, she lived to 94. I think it was just a better existence for her to be slender. And I don't know why she was most likely slender because, the corporations didn't really put as much sugar in the products with processed food as they do now, even today. I mean, my grandma was like, I don't know, she was laughing about easy cheese one day. I thought was interesting. She was like amused by how easy cheese is cheese in a can, and it's so easy just to spread and to use, and it's just cheese in a can. It was just amusing to her in some way, as opposed to the traditional way of extracting it from milk. It's you can get it in a can, and so she wasn't eating the cleanest diets. She was eating her own desserts that she made. And it's interesting to me, that she could live to 94 and be obese. So it's not obese through her whole life. Not from birth until age 94. I think she was healthy in the first half of her existence. So that would have helped. The early stages are some of the most crucial stages for health anyway. So you don't want to be born with those problems of the obesity. So I'm guessing that my grandpa Wilgers, the grandparents the Wilgers were pretty healthy people, and living on the farm. Well, also I guess owning a bar and doing the bar thing. I mean. You wouldn't think living a lifestyle in a bar is going to be that healthy. I don't know. I don't know the exact specifics of it. She might have taken pictures or has pictures of it that I haven't seen. I'd have to see. I've only heard the verbal stories. That's it. And they're not really many stories anyway. Just kind of facts. They're more stated facts than actual stories. Anyway, this family really wasn't a storytelling kind of family. So I'm very limited on being able to tell actual stories about their existence, about their lives. It was just kind of facts. This was set up in this certain way, and that was that way, and you just kind of look at the farm, and I don't know. That's look at the facts and the evidence, and that's all you got with them. I don't know how else I could uh picture her life. Very just very secretive in a lot of ways. I think she was. I think she took a lot of secrets with her into the grave. A lot of things she could have talked about, which she didn't. I think that's something. She just she refused to talk about certain things. All right. So I mean that's just that's fine. What does it matter when after you die? What do you care? There's nothing left. There's nothing to be concerned about. That ends the process. So all right, I'm just talking just rambling along on this subject. I want to input this in the chat GPT, get a summary, just and then leave this chapter at that.